very much indeed. Good evening. Welcome to the show. The people in the world that I have most sympathy with are unborn children. Because unborn children have no say whatsoever in the conception. Adults get together, that's it. They're on the way. They make the most incredible journey from the safety and security of the womb, and they make it out into the world. It is an extraordinary journey. It would make any potholer proud. And they're there, they make their way out. You ever seen them come out? Followed by the umbilical cord. They're about to make their first bungee jump. And somebody cuts the cord. You're cooed over, you're oohed over, you're awed over. You're taken home. The extraordinary thing with parents, they feel this necessity to wrap babies up. They wrap them up like mummies. First thing they do is put a little nappy on them, then a little vest, little woolen vest, little woolen hat, woolen jacket, woolen trousers. Then they wrap them in a blanket. Then they put them in a pram with 2 or 3 other blankets on it. And there's a hot water bottle in there. And the kid is in there going, shit, what? Oh, for Christ's sake, it's so hot. So he starts to scratch himself. And people say, he's scratching himself. Got to stop that. Put mittens on him. And his body's going mad, and he's got the... So he starts to cry, and people say, why is he crying? He's crying because he's bloody itchy, and nobody will understand it. I first began to discover an intelligence in children, baby children, tiny newborn children, when I looked after my nephew. First looked after my nephew. And we were sitting in a park. He is in a pram. And his parents had bought him the regulatory rattle, the compulsory rattle. Every baby in the world has to have a rattle. We assume that babies rattle. We never say to a baby, hey, do you like the rattle? We give him a rattle. You as an adult, could you take it? Every 2 or 3 minutes, some arsehole coming up and going... You'd be a screaming lunatic. And I watched this nephew of mine sitting there, and everybody's coming, ooh, woogie, woogie, oogie, loogie, boogie, buggy, buggy. And then they pick up the rattle and they go... And then they put it back in the pram, and off they'd go. And he'd pick it up, and he'd throw it out of the pram. And some other arsehole would come along and pick it up. Did the baby drop the rattle? And they'd go away. And this could go on for hours, and I'm beginning to think, maybe he doesn't like it. Maybe he's trying to get rid of this bloody thing. And I tested it out. I left it on the ground, and I saw this fella come along and pick it up and go, and I saw the kid's face. He can't speak. He's thinking, stick it up your arse, but don't put it in here. I've watched parents bathing their children. God. Are you a mother, lady? Mother? You bathe your children? Remember you bathing the children? Did you ever test the temperature of the water when you were bathing your child? Yes? How did you test the temperature of the water? With your elbow. Your elbow. When you have a bath, do you get a total stranger to come in and test the temperature? No, of course you don't. And not only do you test the water for somebody else, but you test it with the most gnarled piece of skin on your body. I've seen mothers go, that's all right. Boom, the child's in. He's in there. And the splash, they go, lovely, lovely, lovely. He loves it. They take him out and say, healthy little boy. Poor bastard's half boiled. When you fed, you remember feeding your child? Solids. You strapped them into a chair, is that right? You strap them in the chair, right? And you bring out something that is a combination of oxtail and apple. Is that right? It sits there like a steaming turd. Now, half the joy of food is how appetizing it looks. Now, you as an adult could look at that and go, no, thank you, no way, not at all. Or if you like the look of it, you could salivate and you go, yes, I'd like to taste that. But a child can. It sits there. The child hasn't got the language. He can't say, Jesus, I don't want that. Don't give it to me. But he shows you, he tells you, by every instinct of his body language, he turns away. And the parents will grab him. And he's doing, and they squeeze each other. I've seen them go. I've seen them use a spoon like a wedge. Come on. Open. I've seen them resort to trickery. They'll suddenly go, tick, 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 tick. Oh, boom. And even when it's in, even if the child, he still doesn't, he spits it out, for Christ's sake. I mean, if you spat out food as an adult, I would assume you didn't like it. The child goes, and they scoop it up. They scoop it out of the chest, the chair, the floor, whacked in again. And the child is waiting. The child's not an idiot. The child is waiting. He's waiting for that moment when you pick him up. And you start to bang him on the back to bring the wind up. He's going to bring more than the wind up. Oh, Jesus. All the mythology about food, all that crusts and her curly hair and carrots and fish. I tried it. I used to eat fish because I was told to give me brains. Carrots wouldn't let me see in the dark. Jesus, I walked into more walls. I was such a brat. Cabbage, let me tell you, I do not like cabbage. I've never liked cabbage. I hate cabbage. Now, I would totally accept, if an adult said to me, I do not like cabbage, I would accept it. Why can't they accept a child saying, I do not like cabbage? My mother was always putting cabbage in front of me. I don't like cabbage. Yes, you do. I don't. Don't argue with me. You're just a selfish little child. You think of nobody but yourself. Now eat your cabbage. Think of the starving children. They always bring those bastards into it, don't they? I used to say, well, put it in a bloody envelope and send it to them. There's the eating habits of children. My brother was a very, what I would call, my mother wasn't a terribly good cook. My brother was probably a bit more honest than the rest of us. He was finicky about his food. He used to just kind of move it around the plate. Didn't eat it, just used to kind of circle it around. And we had about 4 dogs and about 5 cats. And he'd suddenly go, and a big... Well, a dog would catch it in midair, go... And for punishment, for not eating his food, my mother would say, if you don't eat his food, you'll go to bed. And he'd go, okay, and he'd piss off. was called punishment. I grew up to that. Go to bed, punishment. I was about 19 years of age. I was over here, and a young female said to me, do you want to come to bed? And I said, what have I done? My name is David. Now, David in my family came 3 different ways. There was Davy, there was Dave, and there was David. There was 3 different ways of approaching me. Davy, when my parents said, Davy! Davy was safe and warm and comfortable and untroubled. Christmas was nearby and birthdays. Davy! Where are you hiding, Davy? Come on, Davy, come on, Auntie Daddy. Santa Claus has bought a lovely thing for you, Davy. I felt totally safe. Dave was more grown up, more adult. Dave, you did a very good job in the garden with me today. I'm very proud of you. Thanks a lot, Dave. Mother, your son Dave is a good kid. David, totally different. David! 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 David would clear constipation at 300 yards. I used to wear those elasticated trousers, which were always slipping down because I was always running around. Little kid running around. And your belly comes out, and the vest goes up, the shirt goes up, the trousers go down. There's a kind of exposure of belly. My mother couldn't stand this. Come here, David. I stand in front of her, and she leaned forward, and she'd pick me up by the sides of my trousers. And I would be suspended in air, and she would be juggling me back into the trousers. Whatever testicles I had, they were coming out of my nose. My legs are legs that do not hold up socks. I don't know why, I just have legs that won't hold up socks. It doesn't make any difference now because I've got long trousers. But when I was a child and I had those short trousers, those little short trousers, Jesus, kids have a bad time with short trousers. People don't know how bad it was with short trousers when you were a kid. They're all into long trousers and jeans now, but we had the short trousers. The bloody wind, the rain and chilblains. And when you went for a piss, you always pulled up. You never opened the front, you always pull up the side. Always little dribbles all down your leg. Frozen, little icicles of urine. But my legs, the socks, they always used to I'd pull them up. And for some reason or other, this used to drive my mother absolutely bananas. Pull up your socks. Pull them up. Don't walk around with your socks like that. Pull them up. Then I'd pull them up in 2 minutes. Pull them up. I did. No, you didn't. If you had to pull them up, they'd be up. She went out and made garters. She made garters that were half the circumference of my leg. My socks would not have come down in a hurricane. I would take my socks off at night. There was a ridge in my leg. A trench, 1/4 of an inch deep. My legs had been cut off for blood for 8 hours. White lumps hanging out of my knees. And all that, the flattening of head and hair. And do you remember this? My mother used to say things like, I'd be standing there beside her somewhere. Where am I? Look at your face. She'd actually say that and mean things like that. Look at your face. When I do it, I go, don't you get cheeky with me. Don't Don't you get cheeky with me. Your face is filthy. It's filthy. It's covered in dirt. You're a dirty little boy. I told you to wash your face. No, you didn't. If you'd have washed your face, it would have been clean. You're just a dirty, filthy little boy. And then she would go into her handbag, dig around, and come out with a handkerchief, a mucus-covered handkerchief that has been sitting in there for years. She spits on her handkerchief and proceeds to wipe her spit all over my face and calls me a dirty little bastard. Dirty little bastard. Living in Ireland, I had a series of Irish spinster aunts, Roman Catholic. I had an Aunt Catherine who was enormous, absolutely enormous. When she wasn't moving, she moved. If she came to a stop suddenly, it would take 20 minutes for the rest of the party to it used to go. She had breasts. One of them would have been enough for a dozen women. When she sat, they used to rest on her lap and hang over her knees. It stood like torpedoes, just sitting there. Do you ever watch a woman when she walks? When a woman walks, it's an extraordinary movement. When a woman walks, if a woman puts forward her left foot, her breasts actually just slightly move to the right. It's like pendulum. Right foot, they go back. Left foot, they go back. So it's just this movement. My Aunt Catherine, walking down the road, these things would go. And they'd reach this point, and they'd come back at a greater speed. And they would just go backwards and forward. I used to follow her down the road. There would be pedestrians being knocked into the bloody road. And when she sat down, her arse was so enormous, it would displace the dress. I mean, she'd sit down, the dress would be here, she'd sit down, and whoom, it would be up. And she had those big long knickers that they used to wear. Those ones with the elastic right down there. In Ireland, we used to call them wrist breakers. You get your hand in there, you couldn't get it out again, the blood would just die. Auntie Eileen was the nearest thing to an anorexic elbow you have ever seen. And she drank maybe 2 bottles of sherry a day. I mean, I didn't know this because I was unaware of it. I was aware of that kind of sweet smell. She was skinny. She had myopic eyes and a moustache. She had a moustache. Now, women will never say that other women have got a moustache. I used to say to my mother, she has a moustache. She hasn't got a moustache. Stop touching it. Why doesn't she shave it like Daddy? Shut up. And she had 1 tooth. I mean, it was an extraordinary image. I'd come into the house and she'd go, hello, Daddy. Hello, Daddy. Come over and give your Auntie Eileen a kiss. And my mother would say, kiss her. Hello, mother. Kiss her. Oh, father. And I had an Aunt Sissy. Cecilia, she's called Sissy. And Aunt Sissy had a nervous tick in her cheek. Now this tick was caused by 2 things. 2 things would activate this tick. Now I have to go back a little bit. We had a dog called Foxy. He was an old mongrel dog. And in the 16 years of his life, he had never been laid. So come 16, he was totally frustrated. He'd taken to humping trees. He'd go by, he would be on an oak. He'd be sitting on an oak. Or you have the back wheel of your bike while you were on it, cycling down the road. And the first time I realized that my mother was an intelligent woman, I walked into the house one day, and he is humping the leg of the table. This dog is humping the table. And I said, Mommy, what's Foxy doing? And she went, he's helping Mommy polish the furniture. But he also loved Aunt Sissy's leg. That was real eroticism to me. Now, every Tuesday, all these aunts of mine used to come to the house to play bridge. Now, the dog was aware of this. Monday night, he used to be standing behind the door. Ten o'clock in the morning, he's salving. 2 o'clock, my Aunt Sissy would arrive. She'd come through the door. He was on the leg. And she was a good Catholic. She used to ignore it totally. She'd walk around the house going, "Oh, you've had some new curtains, Gee." But he was on the leg and the tick was going. And the other time the tick was started was when they were playing cards. They used to play bridge, then they'd have tea, and then the real reason why they were there, a poker game. And I'm telling you, these old biddies would cut your throat at the coast. I mean, real hard poker players, every one of them. And they would sit and play poker. And if Aunt Sissy got a good hand, the tick would stop. And all the other ones would look under the table. And if the dog wasn't there, they'd throw their hands in. The poor old bitch never won a hand in her life. I think I might leave you to go home now. Thank you for listening. Good night.